Hello, my name is Philip Sanko, and I am the president of Limelight Marketing LLC. And I'm also the vice president of Denver Great Minds. And the reason for this video and this interview is we are going to purge my friend Marta um, and dive into what she does. If you guys don't know who Marta Spirk is, you're about to be blown away. She has helped so many people, and it's really inspiring to see what you've done. I watch you all the time, Marta. And before we get into what you do, I want to tell the world a little bit about Denver Great Minds. Okay, so at Denver Great Minds, we're a social network of just badasses. We're business owners, entrepreneurs, but also we're ambitious human beings, and we support anybody, even if you're at the smallest level of the corporate ladder. If you have ambitions, we are here to help you, and that's why we're bringing on people like Marta to really show people what is possible. Okay, we're kind of nerds. We do have big hearts. Like it's hugs all around. With COVID, maybe not with COVID. You know what I mean? Like to party a little bit, but we always keep it classy, and we just have fun networking and building a different type of networking organization. Okay, so we have live events, we have Zoom events, we have so many different things that we're doing to connect people, and we're starting in Denver here, but we're already branching out throughout the United States. Okay, so our expert today, and Marta, you are an expert. You work in the personal development industry, and you really are preaching about self-awareness is the key to personal and professional growth, and it helps you. You work. It looks like you specifically work with mostly women to truly love and believe in themselves. And so I am going to mute myself, and I am going to turn this video over to you. Please enlighten the world on how much you have helped so many people. That's it.
Thank you so much, Phil. I am so excited for this. And I have some slides to share. I'm not sure if I'm able to share them. I think you might have to enable that. But in the meantime, I will go ahead and kind of do a little bit of an intro. So I'm Marta Spirk. I am originally from Brazil. Some fun facts: I have worked with languages for a long, long time. I started teaching English in Brazil when I was 14. So it's been a career path of 20 years. And a huge plot twist for me was having triplets 4 years ago in 2016. Was not expecting that. I don't think anyone ever is. And with that came this desire to really get to know myself so that I knew exactly what I was passing on to my kids, especially because in the world of multiples, the idea of not having a do-over because you're raising more than one child at the same time is very prevalent and creates a lot of mixed feelings and a lot of guilt too. And so I really believe that that was the reason why I got started on this path of empowering myself and then empowering other women to see the best in themselves, so that that's what we can impart to the people around us, and as caretakers and parents, impart that to the future generations. So what I want to share with you today is really a framework that I created that is called the Empowered Woman's Path. And the main points that I believe are important for us to grow as people and to also grow our businesses or grow in our careers is it starts with ourselves, and it starts within. And for me, a lot of this realizations and these things, like I was saying, started when I became a mom to triplets. But also within my business, one of the things that I always like to start with is a beautiful quote that I found when I was lost on Pinterest looking for different ideas for my brand. And I use a lot of pink. I love it. And so I landed in this board that had ideas for little girls' room decor. And I saw this beautiful quote in a beautiful frame that said, "To my daughter, I will say, see your beauty without a compliment and without a mirror," by this amazing British author, Della Hicks Wilson. And when I saw that, I got chills and I instantly got a little bit teary and emotional because I pictured my own little girl. So I have two boys and one girl. I pictured her and thought of the day that will come when she will not feel beautiful, when she will not feel valuable, and how hurtful that is as a parent to see that this may be a reality and that there's nothing that I can do because I can't control what people will do to her, what people will tell her, and I can't control how she feels. But at the same time, it brought me back to my own childhood and the times that I didn't feel valuable or that I didn't feel beautiful and looked outside of myself for that approval and for that confirmation. And even to this day, as an adult, there are times when I doubt my abilities and my capacities. But in understanding that, it starts with me. It starts with me seeing my worth for myself without depending on the external validation. If there's anything that I can pass on to my kids or to anyone, is this: to help them see their worth without depending on any external circumstance or force. And what I hope that you get from my presentation and from getting to know me a little bit more today is exactly that: understanding that you can self-validate and you should make that a habit and a practice every single day. And the very first step to even be able to see your beauty without a compliment and without a mirror is self-awareness, is increasing your knowledge of yourself. Because what better person can know you than yourself? You're with you all of the time. And there's a quote, I forget who it's by, that says, "Wherever you go, there you are." And how many times in our lives we change jobs, we change careers, we change partners, right? We find new friends, we move to a different city, but we're still there. And we may still feel that emptiness. We may still feel that dissatisfaction. And why is that? It's because it's not the job, it's not the career that's going to make the change. It has to start within. So, tip number one for you is get to know yourself. And one of the tools that I love the most to help with that is the Enneagram. There's so many personality tests out there, and I think all of them bring great insight and complement each other. When you think Myers-Briggs, strengths assessment, whatever, all of them are great. But I have found in the Enneagram really the best transformative tool because it gives you insight on your strengths and weaknesses and on your values, but from a transformative standpoint of, I am the way that I am. Now, how can I work with myself instead of against myself? Because how many times have you insisted so much on doing things that don't come naturally to you? Now, I'm all for challenging yourself and trying new things, but especially as business owners and as professionals and even as parents, sometimes we beat ourselves up so much for the things that don't come naturally to us and for the things that are hard for us. And instead of spending so much energy beating yourself up, why don't you spend that same energy in focusing on the things that you are good at, on your talents? Because there's a reason why there are people out there that are detail oriented. There are numbers people, right? That's the reason why we have houses and bridges and buildings, because those people see the details and they make things happen. But there's a reason why we have artists and we have people that know multiple languages, such as myself, musicians. Those people think outside the box. They have a different outlook in life, and we need those people too. We need the people on the behind the scenes to organize stuff, and we need the performers, the people that go in front of the others and spread a certain message. So there's a place in this world for each and every one of us. But in order to even find that place and maximize the use of your presence on this earth, you have to know what your place is. You have to know what kind of role you play. And I think the Enneagram is a great step for that. So if you're not familiar with it, I highly encourage you to go take the test. There are free tests out there online, but just talking about how important the Enneagram is, not only for self-awareness and self-discovery, but to improve relationships with other people. Because once you understand how you are, it's easier for you to understand how other people are and why they operate a certain way. Because so many times we get offended with people's behavior and we fail to understand that that's their lens. That's how they see the world. So for a person that's very detail oriented, which is usually the type 1 in the Enneagram, They see faults in everything because it's their mission to fix. Now, when you combine that with a person such as myself that is a type 3, I like to achieve things. I like the recognition and the high of that next accomplishment. When you have somebody that's wanting to achieve and wanting to get things done, and you have somebody else pointing the finger, looking for mistakes and looking for flaws, that can be super frustrating. But there's a place for these two types of people in the world, and actually all the 9 types of the Enneagram. So this is how getting to know yourself can be so helpful for you to advance in life, personally, and also in every relationship that you may have in your life. Now let's move on to self-empowerment. And there's a reason why self-empowerment comes second, because how can you trust something you don't know? How can you love someone you don't know? You can't love somebody that you truly don't know. And that's where you can only empower yourself and really be confident in who you are if you know who you are. So it has to start with getting to know yourself more. And with self-empowerment, one of the things that I learned from a mentor years ago is something called a brag book. I'm assuming you're familiar with a gratitude journal. And you will agree with me that you're usually not in your own gratitude journal. You're not listing yourself in there. You're listing people, things, accomplishments, and things like that. And the idea behind a brag book is bringing yourself to the forefront and developing this pride for who you are, because that's what keeps you going, right? When you think, I'm awful, I can't do this, what are the chances that you're actually going to get up and try again? Whereas if you tell yourself, hey, this was just a lesson, now I can get back up and do it again because I have accomplished other things in my life and I have proven this to myself, that increases the chances of you getting back up and going at it again. And so the brag book is creating the practice of always reminding yourself of the things you're proud of having accomplished. So was it getting a degree? Was it starting from scratch, moving, whatever it was? But also think of smaller things, because technically your brain doesn't know the difference between a big accomplishment and a small accomplishment. It just knows the feeling, that relief, that pride, that joy. So even if it's just putting the laundry away, doing the dishes, putting dinner on the table, even when nobody thanked you for it, you can still validate yourself and recognize yourself and take people's compliments or even the reflection in the mirror of as a confirmation of what you already know, of just a bonus of what you already know. So I challenge you to start the practice of keeping a brag book morning and night, and also throughout the day. Whenever you find yourself doubting yourself or thinking that you're not good enough, remember of the things that you have already done, that you were great at, and that will give you strength to keep going. And finally, lastly, we talk about transformation. So many times we want to skip steps. We want to get right to being something else, being somebody else. And for one, we forget that we're never going to be anybody else but ourselves, right? And for two, the only thing that you really need and that you really have is yourself. So again, learn to work with what you have. And that transformation cannot come from a place of hate for who you are. How many times did you want to become something else or change who you are because you were frustrated with your current condition? And you will notice that this frustration doesn't help you keep going. Or if it does, it's not long lasting, because it's from a place of dissatisfaction with yourself. And I borrowed a quote from the fitness space that I really love. They say, you can hate yourself skinny. I like to say, you can't hate yourself successful or happy. It has to come from a place of gratitude and appreciation for who you are. So what I want to challenge you to think about is, what is one weakness that you have identified in yourself that you can focus on to build more self-awareness and empower yourself? See, this is different because usually when you think a weakness that you have, you already start beating yourself up over it. You already start diminishing yourself and undermining yourself because you have that flaw. When in reality, especially as you get more acquainted with the Enneagram, you will notice that your weaknesses are actually your strengths, but out of an unhealthy space. So as an example, the type 1, who is the perfectionist and the detailed oriented person, this can be super helpful for getting things done very correctly, right? Because they're so detail oriented. But talk about perfectionism being something that can stop you, right? If nothing is good enough, then nothing is ever going to be good enough, right? So that's the downfall of a perfectionist, of the reformer, which is the type 1. So there's always this duality with everything that we are. And it's about finding really the strength within your weaknesses. and operating out of a healthy space, which is a space of self-love, instead of operating out of a space of self-hate and frustration for who you are. So this is how I believe you can learn to see your beauty without a compliment and without a mirror. First, getting to know yourself. Then lifting yourself up any chance you have and being your best cheerleader, reminding yourself of the great things that you have done. And this is your recipe really into transforming into the best version of yourself. That's all I have.
Oh no, that was awesome. I was sitting there like taking it all in. That was great, Marta. Thank you. I have a few questions I'd like to ask. So, how did you actually get get into this whole empowering women entrepreneurs thing? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, so everything really began, like I mentioned in the beginning, after I had triplets. So I had the babies in Brazil. We were living there at the time. My husband's American, but we were living there at the time. And we decided to move back when they were 9 months old. And that's when I was, away from my family because his family is not from Colorado either. And so it was just me and these three kids. And I found myself in this space of what am I going to do? Who am I really? Really wanting to go through this process of self-discovery. And in the online space, I found the opportunity of starting an online business and saw that many women resonated with my feelings and with the things that I was talking about. And so that's how it all began.
Okay, I guess my next question is, what does empowerment really have to do with self-love? How does that work?
Yeah. So, like I said, you can only improve yourself when you talk self-improvement and self-help, personal development. It can only come from a place of love for who you are, for gratitude for who you are, which may seem kind of counterintuitive because if you really like who you are, why would you aim for anything else? Why would you want to change? Why would you want to evolve, right? But this is the recipe for change. Like I said, it comes from a place of appreciating and being grateful for the things that you already are. And the reason why that is connected to empowerment is because even though the word, female empowerment and women empowerment sometimes can get associated with feminism or with antagonizing men, my vision really is that empowerment is taking responsibility for your happiness, taking responsibility for your success, for yourself. Instead of pointing fingers and saying, hey, you didn't recognize me, hey, you didn't support me, you can say, it'd be great if you recognized me and supported me, but I don't need that to love myself, to see my beauty.
So, as I'm thinking about this, what are some actual practical tools or steps to pursue self development?
Yes. So first thing I would say, start getting to know yourself more. So it's not just reading all of the books. It's sitting down and understanding, why do I do the things I do? How do I typically react to certain situations? What are the situations that get under my skin? And a really useful tool to help guide this process of these questions and this reflection is the Enneagram. So don't just take the test and put it on the shelf. So whenever it comes up in conversation, you say, hey, I'm type 2. It's really dig deep, find out what that means, and find out what the other types are like, because this will improve your relationships in general. Because once you meet someone that's a type 7, you're like, oh, that's why you act like that. Now I get it. And you can, jive with that person a little bit more because you understand where they're coming from. And the other thing I was going to say is keeping the brag book. That's huge too.
Yeah, definitely. So I've thought about this a lot, and I was kind of wondering what your thought process is on like how we naturally like why do we naturally seek validation outside of ourselves?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it comes from when we're growing up, we're learning life. And I think naturally kids are always looking for, pushing the limits and testing us, right? Can I go a little bit further? And then they're always looking for the adults for that permission or for that approval. And different personality types act in different ways. But depending on the reactions that we get growing up, that's when our personality is really formed, right? That's when you start, being more of a type 1 than a type 2. It's really in your interactions in your formative years. And you will see that in every personality type, like I said, there are the strengths and there are the weakness, which really they are the same. They are just healthy and unhealthy. right? So instead of seeing the cup half full, you see it half empty. And all of them really have this tendency of, I need to do something to prove myself. So the type 1 is I need to fix things. The type 2 is I need to help someone. And instead, what we should be aiming for is just being who we are, finding who that is and being it, instead of doing something to then be something. We don't have to do anything to be ourselves. We already are. And so I think it's just in the process of figuring out life, we're looking at each other to confirm ourselves, when, yes, that is important. But if we have mentors and if we have people around us that will guide us into being who we naturally are, then we're going to be avoiding seeking that external validation.
That's wow. That was a great explanation. So I, in how do you believe long-lasting true transformation happens?
Yes. So like I mentioned, it really has to come from a place of self-acceptance. And I will say that the biggest downfall that we have as human beings is assuming that we already love and accept ourselves enough. And if you are not reaching the next level in your life, if you are struggling with something right now, it's because you need to reach a new level of self-acceptance. So it's never really ends as long as we are alive. And I've encountered so many people, especially in the last 4 years, that say to me, I'm already super empowered. I don't need this. Except you're struggling with something in your life. We all have struggles, right? So yeah, maybe you are super confident, but there's always that next layer. And so understanding that really is the key to always be evolving, is understanding that there is always a next level, just like a video game, right? You graduate that one and you move on to the next one, because the moment that you think you've done it all and there's nothing else, that's when you're stopping yourself, essentially, because you think, there's nothing else that can be improved upon or that can be done. And then there are the people that understand that they need to better themselves, but then they operate out of that place of dissatisfaction. It's never good enough. I'm never good enough. So it's really finding that sweet spot between being okay with who we are, but wanting that next challenge to really get to the next level.
Um, Thank you. So now I have a few questions that have come in from different people. And so I'm going to kind of randomly pick these. So I hope you're okay with that.
All right, I'm ready.
So somebody asked, how do we know when we need self-love?
Yeah. So beautiful segue into what I was saying before is you always do. You always do. So I think the first indication is if you think you don't need it, you need it. And if you think you need it, you need it. So it's something that never ends. And I think the misconception with self-love is because it's become kind of played out. We see so much of it out there because of, social media and things, technology and things losing its weight and its importance, words especially losing its weight and its importance when you have printed tees, when you have hashtags and all that stuff. And really, instead of thinking what is self-love and why do I need it, it's thinking, how do I not love myself right now? What are the ways that I am disrespecting myself right now? Because when you think self-love, you may think, I have never had thoughts of harming myself, which means I already love myself. Okay, but let's take it up a notch. Let's go a little bit deeper into thinking, what are some of the ways that you're disrespecting yourself? That's the very place where you need more self-love, whether it be you can't say no to people, whether it be your calendar is always jam-packed and you never sleep, you're not eating well, you're not drinking water, you're not cutting toxic relationships out of your life. All of those things are an indication of lack of self-love. So everyone needs this.
Okay, next question that somebody else asked was, and I think this is important, is what was your biggest turnaround, like your best case study, student or somebody you worked with?
Oh my gosh, I have so many, but I think one of my favorite cases was a triplet mom that I actually helped that was getting started with her business. Um, she was an artist, and she was always doing like little, drawings and things like that. And it was really that escape for her. But with her being a type 2, so I always bring the Enneagram in everything that I do. With her being a type 2, which is the helper has the tendency of putting everybody first. And I think as women, that's even harder, right? We put everyone's needs first and we forget to look at ourselves. And with her being the helper, being a woman, and being a mom to triplet girls, it was really, her reality was there's no time for me, and it's never my turn. And with having this idea of starting a business where she makes custom pictures and she sells her amazing art online, it was that moment for her of, this is my turn. One, because art is my escape and I'm really good at it. And two, because I can be bringing this into the world and helping people. So essentially by helping herself, turning it around, doing what she hadn't done in years because she was so busy taking care of everybody else, she was actually able to help more people and to reach more people with her work, with her art. So I love that story so much. And her name is Tanya. She's amazing.
Wow, excellent, excellent case study. This next one is my question.
Okay.
Do you think women are too scared to talk about their struggles?
Yes, I think, well, it depends on the personality type. Like I said, some people are more outspoken, so that comes easier for them. Some people are more proud, so they don't talk about their needs. So one of the things about the helper, which is the type 2, is that you think, it's so noble. I want to put everybody else first. I'm so selfless. But there is a pride in that because it's hard for them to admit that they need the help too, or to even help themselves, So there's so many hidden things within ourselves that we don't know, or that maybe we have seen, but we choose to be in denial of because it feels more comfortable, even though it's not comfortable. The struggle that we have lived and this oblivion that we have experienced feels so familiar. So it's hard to break free from that. And I think, like I said, women are naturally more nurturing. So it's hard for them to admit that they need the help. So talking about it shows that weakness, which women are already seen as like the fragile ones. So if you go ahead and you admit, right, that you're struggling, or even if you cry, which is something that women are known to do, and with time, with all the issues of gender equality and things like that, women have had to change their behavior almost and to deny their natural instincts because they can't be seen as the weaker link. And with that, we lose a lot of the strength that we have in our vulnerability.
So do you think that is what really keeps women from wanting to seek help? I mean,
Yes, definitely. For one, thinking that seeking help will show weakness. And for two, I should be helping somebody else instead of getting help for myself. So it's a really double-edged sword there. And I think all of us struggle with this. But again, depending on the personality type, one thing may be stronger than the other.
okay, that is awesome. I am out of questions for you at this point. I think you've really enlightened the world. And thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
experience and all of this. I just wanted to let everybody know that Marta, if you want to book time with Marta, she'll do a 60-minute empowerment session with you, and you can kind of work out your funk, gain a little clarity, and understand how to conquer really anything. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you'll just through talking with Marta before, she helps you understand how to identify your biggest insecurities right at the moment, reframe it, and create a real plan to move forward. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's called the 5-step framework called the Empowered Women's Path. Could you please talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So the framework of the 5 steps really is a broken down version of the 3 steps that I shared today. So within self-awareness, self-empowerment, and transformation, I talk about self. First, noticing yourself, which starts with getting to know yourself, the Enneagram, and then listening to yourself. So everything that I said, take note of your reactions, take note of how you operate in the world, take note of your motives, what gets you up in the morning, and all of those things. And then forgiving yourself, which I believe gratitude and forgiveness are two sides of the same coin. In order for you to be grateful for something, you have to choose to see it through eyes of forgiveness, right? And forgiveness really is a form of gratitude, because you're choosing to see the lesson, you're choosing to see the good thing in the hard thing, right? And then the fourth step is empowering yourself. Empower yourself, which is then keeping a practice of the brag book and using words of affirmation for yourself, or whatever love language that you have. That's another framework that I like using, is figuring out what your love language is and using it on yourself. Don't expect somebody else to do it for you. And finally, transform yourself, which is really the final step, and really rinse, repeat into noticing yourself, listening to yourself, forgiving yourself, and empowering yourself.
Awesome. Oh, I love the love language stuff. I've done that before,
Yes.
and it's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get in contact with you, especially for your 5-step framework, the Empowered Women's Path. I want to make sure people know to go to www.martaspirk, martaspirk.com/offers/ I'll put this in a separate thing, but slash
Okay.
DHERRG5P, but I will make sure that is included. I'll put it in some context wherever you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing this. And how else can people get a hold of you outside of your website? How do you like to be contacted? Because there are going to be people who hear this right now who want to talk to you today.
Yes. So you can find me all over social media for sure. Just at Marta Spirk. I hang out on Facebook a lot. I have a Facebook community that I would love for you to join, called the Empowered Woman Community. Otherwise, you can find more of my content on my podcast as well, the Empowered Woman Podcast, or send me an email, martaspirk@gmail.com.
Great. So unless there's anything else you would like to share, Marta, I think you've covered a lot, and I wanted to really honestly thank you for joining me today for this interview. I think this is something that needs to be shared that people
Yes.
don't know about,
Yeah.
and I will definitely be sharing in my community. I would love to see your message spread everywhere. It's just so positive, and like, I know you mainly work with women, but as a male, this is awesome. This is great.
Yes. I know it is for everyone. There are so many men that say, when are you going to start doing things for men? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Just stay tuned.
Okay. Well, thank you very much again, and we'll be talking soon, okay?
Yes, thank you.